we are 300 now. A huge thank you to everyone who thought my channel is worth subscribing. So then, do we have a car of a great significance with 300 in its name? Oh yes, we do. A Mercedes-Benz 300 SL from 1954. I will draw this car from the side and front views, and then I'll come up with a design idea of a coupe under the Mercedes brand. So let's draw this car and see what makes it so interesting. This is an adventure for me as well, since I'm not really into the classic Mercedes cars. And obviously being aware of the existence of the 300 SL, I never were really interested in it. And as I started preparing myself for this video, I've grown to deeply appreciate a milestone this car represented. What makes the design of this car so special is the fact that it is as beautiful as it's functional. Nothing in it is fake, nothing is a gimmick, and every detail is a consequence of the purpose it serves. The air outlet on the side is for cooling. The eyebrows on the wheel arches are for protection from dirt and rainwater. The bonnet is long to bring as much of the engine as possible within the wheelbase for better weight distribution. And the gull wing doors are the way they are because of the space frame the car is built on that made the door seals very high and left no space for the conventional doors, but made the car light and rigid. And all this engineering is nicely transitioning into a beautifully executed, solid design. Especially the side view represents this simplistic and elegant exterior. The body is clearly divided into a lower part and a greenhouse sitting tightly on top. We have large uninterrupted surfaces that are very easy on the eye and you don't stumble gliding along the clean lines. The proportion of the length to the height, the long bonnet, tight cabin and softly dropping rear end consolidate in a very sleek aerodynamic shape. A very mesmerizing appearance that is achieved not through lots of details, but rather amazingly balanced proportions and volumes. So I have finished my side view here. Let's appreciate it once again. But it's not enough to be fast and pretty to be a legend. And the word on the street is that the 300 SL is nothing less than that. So it started 2 years prior to its production debut with a 300 SL racing prototype. 1952, Germans are deciding to go racing again for the first time after the World War II and are very successful doing so, winning pretty much everything that was to win. Remember the engine placement within the wheelbase, the weight distribution, the aerodynamic bodywork, and the innovative space frame. This all went from the racing car into the production unit. It wasn't a production car that they tried to force to race, it was a race car that they have modified to become street legal and more or less daily usable. So now we know how dominant the 300 SL was on a track, but could it live up to its racing heritage on the public roads? And the answer is yes, it could, absolutely. Let's put this 240 horsepower Mercedes in a context and see what we had 1954 on the roads. So for example, we had a Porsche 356 with 56 horsepower. How fast was a Corvette in 1954? 155 horsepower. And a Ferrari 250 GT Coupe had 220 horsepower. And a Porsche 911 will hit the market in 10 years with 130 horsepower. At this point, some of you who aren't really into cars might ask, but where is Lamborghini in this story? And well, here it is. But listen, look, I wanted to make this little harmless joke about the fact that Lamborghini cars weren't even around in any shape and form by the time Mercedes was already crushing all the competition left and right by showing this Lamborghini tractor saying this is how your fastest Lamborghini looked like in 1954. And I have googled a Lambo tractor from that year and this one came up, right? And as I saw it, my grin face had changed because considering the function of this vehicle, this is every single bit as lovely designed as the cars on the left. I am dead serious. This is so beautiful. I was totally humbled by this thing, I have to say. So, no jokes to find here. Moving forward. And with its up to 260 km per hour top speed, this Mercedes was the fastest production car of its time. And I'm aware how fast things were moving in the 50s, and already within a couple of coming years, the competition struck back with huge engines and lots of horsepower. But for a brief period of time, this Mercedes was your, in a way, Bugatti Chiron from 1954, but with actual racing roots. And because of this never-seen-before consequent dedication to speed, by many, it is considered to be the first true sports car ever. And 1999, a panel of experts named the Mercedes-Benz 300 SL the sports car of the century. Okay, so moving forward to my proposal. With my take on this topic, I won't go for a direct spiritual successor of the 300 SL. In my case, it's a product placed higher than a AMG GT and will be a sporty, comfortable coupe rather than a radical sports car. I'll explain that choice later on. I'm starting with a side view to establish a character and the main proportions. What makes out the exterior design of the original is the fact that it's very masculine but elegant at the same time. It's an athlete wearing a suit, so to say. And I think it's a good idea to pick up on that notion and try to create a design of the car that carries its muscles with class, paying attention to the proportions and volumes and having as little unnecessary details as possible. It's a recipe for every good design, obviously, but in this case it's especially true. What I won't do is two things. First, I won't pick up any concrete design cues from the original, because I think the time gap is just too big. The 300 SL is a product of its time, albeit its aesthetics is timeless. And the second thing I won't repeat after the original is the doors. No gull-wing doors. This is not about creating a facelift/replica 70 years later. And it doesn't make sense to replicate these doors without having the reason, the construction feature that made these doors a necessity. And here's my side view. I went for settled and simple design that at the same time is dense and concentrated enough to visually translate its ability to go fast. We are moving to the front three-quarter view. This view shows the most information at once. We see the side view and the front end, and overall shape landscape we are dealing with. Very important view for every presentation. The theme of less details and large uninterrupted surfaces continues here as well. The graphical composition of the face is reduced to a single strip of light with the brand logo in the middle, and that small cutout underneath it. Everything is kind of pointing at the logo. And since the upper part of the front is already simplified, I'll make the bottom air intake area even simpler, not to steal too much attention from the upper part. Also, you can note that the whole bottom area of my proposal is set apart by color and shape, creating this kind of platform underneath the body which should work together with the greenhouse that is set apart by color as well. These two elements combined allow the body side look more slim and nimble. It helps to reduce the visual height and create more of a lightweight appearance, which is always a good thing. And while I'm drawing the rear end, please let me bring up some thoughts about the 300 SL and a possible successor in the real world. Please note, I'll have to oversimplify many things and cut many corners. I've got less than 3 minutes for this. So in the beginning, I have said that I won't attempt to come up with a proposal of the direct true successor for the 300 SL, which was a radical sports car, and I'd rather go for a Gran Turismo type of a car. And that's because that attempt wouldn't make much sense, at least for the purpose of this particular video. You see, the design of this car is just a tip of the iceberg of what made it a legend. And in order to recreate not just a shell, but the substance, Mercedes would need to race, to win, and to win in a spectacular way, setting milestones in terms of speed, power, innovative engineering, and so on. And while I have no doubts about Mercedes' ability to accomplish most of these things, they are already doing this in F1, the real question here is, does it make sense from the marketing point of view? Do people still care about racing pedigree in the world of production cars? And in my opinion, not so much. Part of the reason is technology available today. A car doesn't have to be part of this niche, radical supercar elite to be crazy fast. Speed got cheaper. On the other hand, racing used to be much more dangerous, and that attracted spectators. It was beyond their imagination to race a car going crazy fast, having zero safety, and people were admiring the ones who did it. The race drivers, they were daredevils, gladiators, freaking Suicide Squad. And today there are just, well, quote-unquote, just well-respected athletes. We have 5-seater family electric cars now that are almost as fast as ICE supercars. And once the supercars go all electric, will they be able to maintain that prestige speed gap to keep the status quo, since some of them are already limited by the properties of rubber and tarmac rather than by amount of horsepower they have? And with all the driving assistant features, it's easier than ever before to feel like a pro driver, whereas the sports cars from earlier could be brought up to some respectable speeds only by the chosen ones, especially in corners. And my question here is, are all the things that made the original 300 SL a legend still relevant today? In a couple of years, especially with the dawn of EVs, every car will be a supercar, every driver will be a super driver. And when everyone is a super, then no one will be. Have I gone too far with this? What do you think about it? Please leave a comment, I am really curious about your opinion. Having said all this, it shouldn't hold us back from doing something interesting about the doors. 2 options. Option number 1, the doors are hinged on the roof. Yes. They swing up and slide back so you can step in the car rather than pushing yourself in from the side. And then by stepping out, you can swing your legs straight to the side out of the pedal area thanks to the prolonged doorway, since there is no hinge there anymore. A really advanced and well expensive comfort feature, so to say, and it looks sophisticated as well. So is this an exact depiction of your engineering hell? Yes, it is, but every crazy idea has to start somewhere, right? Option number 2. Doors are hinged behind the doorway, something that Koenigsegg is doing but the other way around. By the way, I would highly suggest you to check out the engineering behind the Koenigsegg doors. It is very interesting. So in our case, these doors should save some space from the sides when open and make getting out of the car much easier, again because of the prolonged doorway, since we have an epic dash to axle distance and the fact that by stepping out, the actual door isn't in your way anymore. So exiting the car can be executed in a more dignified way. And one little extra to make this view a bit fancier, let's open up this huge bonnet to get access to our glorious engine bay. To the frunk. I meant to say frunk, right? I meant to say frunk. I have to go now.